you look at the Lego Group last year, we grew our revenue 12%. On a business of our size, that's a pretty impressive number. We see massive value in the YouTube relationship and we see opportunity. It's about building the brand, it's about building the product, it's about understanding the customer and really delivering a good product before you chase the rapid growth. Listen to the consumer and then build the business from there.
Nearly a century ago, a Danish carpenter named Ole Kiek Christensen was looking for a way to provide for his 4 sons. What started out as handcrafted wooden toys soon turned into something much bigger, the iconic Lego brick. And the Lego brand, derived from the Danish words legot, meaning play well, today is one of the most loved and recognizable brands globally, inspiring creativity across generations. Today, I'm joined by Freddie Liversidge from the Lego Group. In our conversation, we'll talk about what's driving global growth and, more importantly, how brands can position themselves to be successful on the international stage. Welcome to In Conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So Freddie, you lead the global media activation for one of the most recognizable brands on the planet. What would you say is something that should be top of mind for all marketers today?
I'm going to go very simple with people. I see so often in this industry, we get so excited about data, we get so excited about the new formats, the technology and all this, and we forget about we're actually just talking to human beings.
Which takes me to, you have a huge reach and range of audiences. I have a 9-year-old son, a 16-year-old daughter. They both love Lego sets. I took a picture yesterday of my daughter's room. This is just one wall.
That's amazing.
There are 2 more, just like this.
That's incredible. Thank you. Yes, I'm not sure I should say, but that's amazing.
I also have a team, a very large team of predominantly, we'll call people in their 20s to 30s, and we do some kind of contest or something. I always put a big mix of prizes in. The number one thing people get excited about is when I have Lego sets, and this is the one people want to trade for. The reason I bring all this up is I was thinking about this, and I was curious about how do you define your audience that you're going after?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's general. It's pretty open. I mean, in the sense of we talk about the shopper, right? That's usually our target audience. It's the parent, it's the grandparent, it's the uncle, it's the friend. And we do nuance it based on the sets, right? I mean, a botanical versus a Friends versus a Ninjago versus Formula One. Slight nuances, but really in general, we're focused on that shopper in a very kind of holistic perspective. And then with the growth of the adult audiences and adults wanting to play more with their own sets, now we actually target adults to purchase their own toys so they can play and have as much fun.
The adult audiences, like we saw that during COVID, of people rediscovered that whimsy and that fun of the brand. And I think it gave people lightheartedness in a time that felt a bit heavy. And it seemed to be a global phenomenon. I mean, the Lego brand is a much loved brand. Like, the legacy is incredible. And I think that's why a lot of marketing teams would be really excited to hear from you.
Yeah, we did see that bump in COVID. We saw a benefit, but it's continued growth-wise. And I think we've obviously done tons of research and we're digging into those audiences and what's working from a product point of view, but from a media point of view and so forth. But personally, I think it comes back to nostalgia and just that love for the brand. And as a kid, you've had the experience, and then you come back and be able to sit down and just complete something. Just is so lovely with a Lego set.
So it's a global brand. I mean, everything we just described, that's true around the globe. It's not specific to a market. And I think anybody who's watching us and listening to us can probably, in their mind, picture a time that they themselves played with Lego sets, which makes it probably your job a bit challenging. Because how do you think about the Lego Group's overall approach to reaching audiences in media when it is global and across all the people you just listed, all those different buyers?
We differentiate depending on where our brand sits slightly, right? So to your point, yes, it's very well known around the world, but in Western Europe, US, we're more well known. Asia maybe slightly less known, so we will change the story slightly with that piece. But then also we think about how we go from a global to a local part, and that's the other piece that's kind of key for us. So we're really thinking, what's a global conversation that can be integrated, which will have global reach, but then localizing into the different markets. And that goes back to what I was kind of just saying before around where the brand impacts and how we want to come to market.
But even with the Lego Group digitally mature brand, there's no one-size-fits-all solution for all the reasons you just listed, right? You think about your presence in an individual market. You think about what's topical in an individual market, or even what the competition is in each market. Yes. So how do you determine the right media mix for the Lego Group? And particularly, I'm interested in how do you think about branding and performance together?
Our marketing mix model, our regression analysis, is really the back end of it, right? It's a very data-led approach.
Yeah.
It's maybe not quite sound so sexy there, but that's how we approach it. And we also bring in our brand strength data and so forth into that. And we're looking at then what is the optimal mix from a media point of view that will drive the impact that we need in that market. And that allows us to nuance based on how much our brand is known in a market, also what is working, where in the US we'll lean heavier into CTV because we know that's the branding, and we also know the rate of change and the adoption. So we use that marketing mix really as our central piece. Some listeners maybe don't have a marketing mix model and they're not cheap. If you don't have it, then we're looking at things like incrementality studies, attribution modeling. Ideally, you put all three together and you can triangulate them with the marketing mix. But if you don't, using things like incrementality studies to look at that mix, what's driving the impact, and looking at it long term and short term. I do think some brands get sucked into, call it the drug of like the last click, like 30-second response rate, right? And you've got to make sure that you're thinking about that long term kind of impact as well, and the incremental value they're driving.
Well, and now there are solutions that kind of bridge that gap too. If I think about our solution, Demand Gen is a nice one that bridges that gap as well. So I think there are solutions that are available that maybe historically you really had to delineate, and you still should in terms of how you're measuring, but in terms of the kind of crossover of video it can be a performance driver. And so it's an interesting time that we've made this evolution.
Yeah, I fully agree. I actually think that's a really interesting point when you think about attention metrics. I don't think there's any consumer out there, going back to people, who sit there and go, okay, I'm sitting down, I want a brand message today. And so I'm going to sit down and I want a DR message today, right? Like they're just consuming content. And if it's the right piece of content with the right moment, then maybe it's going to drive them to do that decision depending on where they are in their mindset. So I fully agree with you, and I like the connection part, especially for the Lego Group. A good portion of our business is D2C, and so direct Lego retail stores, but also .com, where we can use that data that we have so in real time to understand those stories. And then we have the other half, which is our retail business, where we don't have that signal necessarily of conversion. Right. And that's where we're going to lean more into the brand conversation. So
thinking about what a global brand it is and all the audiences, we obviously can't talk about global reach without talking about YouTube.
Sure.
It's certainly got its own global reach. And so I'm curious to hear from your perspective about what role does YouTube play in the Lego Group strategy?
It's a huge part of our strategy. In general, I mean, I think you're now the biggest media company in the world. I don't know if you'd say that, but I'll say it. So of course it's central to it, but we look at it from a creator point of view, in a way from an organic conversation perspective. We look at it from a place to host and distribute content that we're creating. And then we look at it as a brand and sales driver as well. So we're using it across the funnel. And it is a key reach tool for us, basically.
I want to go back to something you mentioned on there, which was the creators.
Yes, sure.
So we think of YouTube as the epicenter of culture, and the driving force behind that, of course, is the creator ecosystem. And this is something that I know the Lego Group has been highly engaged with. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how you've employed that ecosystem of creators.
Yeah, we use it, in multiple different areas, the creator ecosystem. The creator to distribute our content, Ninjago, Friends, there's many other areas, which is a great way for us to get our story out there. But then we use it in different ways around from a global reach perspective through down to our kind of local impact perspective. I'll talk about some of the stuff we do around Valentine's Day and Mother's Day with our botanical sets, where we're right there.
Why not? Let's talk about it. It's right here.
Where we've done kind of boutique florist shops that we would set up. And then we put that onto YouTube to extend the reach and show that integration. And that worked really well. And we've got some great examples of how that's really helped our business. But then also taking it and localized it too. So we do localized events. We just came off one in Korea where we did a kids' day, getting to play basically with Lego sets. And then we created a lot of content off of that and then put it up onto YouTube. The first signs were really good in showing that impact from a local perspective.
That's one thing I think that YouTube creators do really well is that localization. So Kids Day, a lot of countries around the world have Children's Day, and it means something slightly different in each country, or maybe the way that it's celebrated would be slightly different in each country, or even largely different in each country.
Yes.
So I think when you have that local expert who really understands the culture and can bring it to life for that audience, it's a really nice synergy.
So yeah, I think it also helps for a global brand, just to your point, sound authentic when they show up locally.
I'd be curious to hear you talk a little bit more about cultural moments on YouTube and how you think about creating content for yourself, how you work with creators, how do you bring that to life?
Yeah, there's cultural moments come into pretty deep planning and quite a long time out. Some of the bigger moments, the Formula One drivers parade, that was
My favorite.
A little bit big moment. We did the Champs-Elysees in Paris, which was a big moment last year. Those are big moments we planned. World Play Day, which is a recognized day now. Those are all big moments that we want to capture. And then, yes, we go to creators, we work with partners, we're bringing in well-known individuals for superstars to create content and really drive kind of the brand and the performance. So yeah, we're doing it at that level, but we're also, again, coming back to, we are still doing also local creators, local enthusiasts, which we also are utilizing.
And when do you engage those local ones? So you mentioned that some of these, and we just saw the World Cup series, Ronaldo and Messi and some of those in the Grafton store right here in Dublin. You mentioned that some of these take years, that those would have to take years.
Yeah.
But then how would you bring localization and what's the local creators into it and what's that timeline look like?
There's no sweet spot on it. Sometimes it's very quick. It's like we see something working and the local marketing teams are out there trying to get a creator up and running very quickly, or maybe it's a 3 to 6 month or a year planning of those local executions. But to your point, we have global plans. Let's go to Formula One. We have the global strategy, which we're going to do an integration with Formula One. We have these global big moments, which are local in some ways, right? The drivers parade. But then we also allow our local markets around the world to also turn those into big moments for their market or BU, or business unit or country. And those then allow local creators to talk about those moments. So you could use the Australian Grand Prix or Silverstone, which is the British Grand Prix, when those connected back up to our Formula One initiative. And you'll see we've done that in other ways as well. I mentioned botanicals earlier. Botanicals, we let it localize too with local content creators and so forth. So those are good ways for us to pull that off.
How do you think about how is it paying out? So upper funnel, how is that returning for you on the lower funnel?
I'm going to go back to my marketing mix model comment, and it all sits in that data set, right? We have the brand in there. We know what percent the brand drives to our bottom line. We know how much our paid media drives. We know how much our organic drives based on the models we have. I mean, not perfect, but that is how we make our decisions. We utilize that to basically define our whole strategy, and then globally we define it, and then locally we execute it. I kind of wish I could stand up here and make it sound more complicated, but it really is. It's that. That's how we take it to market.
So is it fair to say, I won't ask you to share any numbers because I know, number one, you couldn't, and I'd really like you to keep your job because you seem to really enjoy it.
I do quite enjoy it,
yeah. But would it be fair to say that through your MMM, you are seeing that an investment in the top is paying out in the bottom of the funnel? Okay.
100%. We wouldn't keep investing in the brand if it wasn't. We know how important the brand is, and we can see through our models, through the marketing mix, through our brand sheds, how much that drives our commercial business. I mean, we literally look at, in a very simple, in the marketing mix model, when it comes to the media piece, we look at how much does brand impact it, how much is creative, and how much is the media execution. And I won't share the exact percentages, but I can tell you that brand one's quite big. We can really see the impact as it kind of trickles down, not even just into, again, our D2C, but into our other retailers and so forth, our overall mix. We can see how that brand is impacting. The
Lego Group was obviously an incredible content creator in their own right. You know, there's a lot of brands who wish that they had that claim to fame, but if I think about, you do custom content around things like Ninjago and the Lego movies, but also there's your more traditional kind of created for ads content that is highly engaging. I want to tie that into the connected TV though. Okay. So right now we know, I think it's roughly 90% of US households have a connected TV, and we know that there's a significant amount of viewership. I think it's now the majority of viewership is happening through connected TV. Are you thinking about that when you design creative, about designing for people who watch on a phone versus people who watch on a connected TV?
No, it's probably the answer is yes too. We look at the data and obviously the performance and what's working, what has worked previously. We see what is resonating based on formats versus on geos, based on on different content lengths and so forth. So actually, if we go really deep into YouTube, we were looking at long form versus short form versus episodic versus locally nuanced or so forth. We're looking at all those different elements to say what is working best, and then letting the creative teams go to work, right? And then and way smarter, way cleverer than I am, coming up with brilliant ideas. But that's the way that we approach it. I don't think we sit there and go, okay, we're going to build into CTV. We have an idea, a campaign, creative we want to bring to market, and then we say, hey, look, what does the data tell us to then create the content that we want to deliver? And sometimes also we'll build something like the Ninjago, and we might go, well, we think that makes sense on CTV, and we'll see it massively works on mobile because the audience loved it and it worked there. So we don't always have a perfect solution.
Interesting. So the data tells you and then you adapt. So you create amazing assets that represent the brand correctly, and then you have a hypothesis of where you should run them, and then when you look at the data, you fine tune that and repurpose them.
Yeah, exactly. One of our creative leaders at the company, she's always going to say, we love that the data should help us to drive direction, but then you've got to let us have our creative freedom to go and come up and create these brilliant ideas. And I think that is also a bit of the secret sauce that the Lego Group has, which is they just have all these brilliant ideas and things we want to play with. Can't give you an exact example, but I remember a couple of times since I joined where they will show up with a piece of content that's completely against everything that we would tell you is right. We'll put it out there and it'll work. And it's really annoying. And so we listen to the data, but we play.
Yeah.
See what works.
That's nice, that through theme of, belief, and even in your partnerships that you allow people to play.
Yeah, exactly. And you see it, we did a big shorts campaign last year. We saw massive volume, reach, viral, went way bigger than we expected. It was fantastic. But it didn't land in the markets we wanted to.
Oh,
which was really interesting. So it wasn't a bad thing because it worked in the sense of it got volume video, it just didn't land. So now we will take that, we'll learn, and then say what can we tweak to it. But that was just, but again, it was just a freedom of creators doing some interesting work.
And this is where I think we're able to be a better and better partner because we have more information about what does work. So as you let people be free to play, we can offer guidance and go, okay, now that you've come up with this amazing execution, here's the places to dial up or dial back by market, by segment, thinking about, we get so much more information now through, our AI-powered creative assets and creative building tools. And so it's fun actually to really partner and think about how do you stay true to that creative concept and to that, amazing brand representation while also bringing in the parameters of, here's some ideas to think about. We know work in these different places. I personally find that part of partnering with brands right now at Google a really interesting part of the discussion.
Our creative teams are always asking for more data. They always want more. They want to know more about what they can play with, what they can learn, how can they get faster feedback. And so that's like music to our ears.
You have an interesting concept of how you think about partners, and you actually have a brand around it, the Lego Partner Promise. I'd love for you to share a bit more about what that is and why it's important.
Yeah, so the Lego Promise is around creating mutual value between partnerships, which is a lovely mentality. Back when they wrote this, probably wrote it more to our retailers, right, and to our customers and who we were partnering with. In my background, I've come from other brands where we've been partnering with Google, and I think this partnership model, looking for growth and opportunity together, it's just really unlocked it. And I think especially for brands that are looking to go in-house possibly, or even through the agency relationships, just that really close tie, open conversation, what's working, what's not working. Because we talked about a lot of the positives here today. There's things that haven't worked as well. And we've had to get to the bottom of those as well. And same for us. If the platform is working for everyone else and just not for us, then what are we doing wrong, right? And we need to work it out. So I think that mutual partnership, and again, I've seen it work in my previous lives. I'm seeing it work right now in the Lego Group, and I think just that really deep relationship and just trying to drive for that common goal is the way to make it work.
Yeah, and I think I just want to compliment the Lego Group on this because I do think, and you in particular, I do think we hear a lot of people say that, but I think it's rare that we see a brand really mean it and engage with it. And I think it's it's interesting that Ole Kiek Christensen had that mentality, and so it's built itself into the architecture and the fabric of the company, and that it comes out today in such a different way maybe than he first intended it.
Yeah, I know. Never actually asked the family, but we talk about that in a group about having tough conversations. And I think that's also part of it too, which is like it's not always rosy, it's not always good, but let's work through it, and then we'll get the powerful impact that we're looking for.
You said something that I think a lot of people will be interested in. You mentioned both agency and in-house. Do you want to share a little bit more about how you think about that?
About a year ago when I joined, we started an in-house journey at the Lego Group. So we're looking to bring our majority of our digital media buying in-house. We are looking to do that for multiple reasons, which I don't have to dive into, but we're also doing that in partnership with our agency, which is Publicis, and we're doing it very much jointly. And so it's a mixed piece. We want to use the benefits that the agency has with regards to negotiating power, maybe with Google, but also with other partners, but also then in the strategic, in the data sets they sit on and the impact they can drive, and some of the traditional buying, but then allowing us to get really close to the data and our key partners from a digital buying perspective and where it's been automated. And that allows us to then, I believe, drive kind of the best-in-class paid media activation. So that is the journey we're going on right now. We just started.
It's a very smart way to go about that transition, because it's not an easy transition in buying. I think people summarize it quite quickly these days, but it's an intricate science.
Science, it is, and I've done it a few times, and even consulted to help brands look at the in-housing capability. And I think it's doing it in partnership with your agency is so important. But I also think people forget how it's not that easy to do. It's funny, I think that you forget so often that some of the hardest things are things like paying invoices and running the right ads and just really basic pieces. And I think those, it's actually back to the partnership, how we work together, is that those are key things you have to get right to nail in housing.
Yeah. How would you sum up the Google and Lego Group partnership?
It's in a great spot. I actually think we're in a growth in a relationship perspective. I think we're in a really good piece. I think there's always more opportunity. I would love to see us do more with Gemini and some of the kind of AI overview and in the search ecosystem, and then GMP and the opportunities in there. Like I think there's a lot of doors to continue to unlock. But I think in general the partnership is really, really strong. And I'm not just saying this because I'm sitting here chatting to you. I mean, I think it's strong in a global perspective, but also in our local markets and building local relationships as well.
I do want to just ask about the return you're seeing from your investment in YouTube overall.
Yeah, I can't tell you everything about all those numbers. We hold them pretty close to our heart, but I can talk about, if you look at the Lego Group last year, we grew our revenue 12%.
Okay.
And on a business of our size, that's a pretty impressive number. Exciting to be a part of. I would love to tell you that YouTube was the sole piece. It's not quite all of it. But what I can tell you is that we see massive value in the YouTube relationship. As I was talking about, we've seen in our marketing mix models the impact that it's driving, and we see opportunity there, right? And so from a CTV perspective, from an online and organic, from a content, we know that it's driving a good chunk of our business, and that we've got an opportunity to grow that and do more with it.
That's great news. And we're all in.
All in, perfect, yeah.
My final question for you is, what are the top 2 or 3 tips you have for a brand looking to expand into global markets and achieve rapid growth? That's kind of the remit we're given by a lot of people, a lot of brands today.
So I'll give you 2 tips. I think that the first one is, I might challenge on the rapid comment. Maybe we're not the right brand to say rapid growth because we've been around for a long time. And so I think for that reason, it's about building the brand, it's about building the product, it's about understanding the customer and really delivering a good product before you chase the rapid growth. And I think building that brand recognition is really important. So that would be one. The second part to that, I think, is take your global playbook, nuance it for the local market, build it into that ecosystem, and then overall, it's really listen to the consumer and then build the business from there.
Well, Freddie, thank you so much. This has been really insightful, and I really appreciate you taking the time today, but also I really appreciate the partnership well beyond today.
Yeah, brilliant. No, thank you so much. It's been good fun.